Yeah. Eh? Eh? Gamers Rise Up. How are we today or tonight? A bit of a weird released one. I don't tend to do it in the middle of the week, but I thought that you owed it. You were owed it. A reminder that my last video's only got one view because it's adults only because of the topics of the R word that rhymes with grey. I'm talking a bit louder because I've got the house to myself, so I don't really need to worry about disturbing anybody in the house. But this is part 4, I think, of the series. We have 5 films to go over, so let's just get straight into it. The first one is No Pressure, which I've given 1 star because it had a gimmick, but because it's a 4 minute short film, the gimmick kind of just felt old. The first part of it was simply, whoa, so that happened. So I gave it a 1 star because I was like, you know what, it's a bit of a shock. And David Ginola, he used to play for Newcastle, he gets exploded. The entire point, and again, this is, there's 2 documentaries on here, so don't expect us to cover the documentaries in full because you know what I'm like. No Pressure is a 4 minute short film, and I don't really know what it's about. So Gillian Anderson narrates it, sort of, like she's at the end, but I don't fully understand what the motive of the short film is. I know it's to do with something, but I don't know what that something is. Um, it's very difficult to explain. It's about carbon costs, like stop using cars, stop using planes, cycle, walk. And if you disagree with it, there's a button and you explode. You know that movie Spontaneous with Catherine Newton in? No, Catherine Langford, sorry. It's like that, but it came before the film. So the ironic thing is, it's probably a bunch of which letterbox to use, as I've already said, a bunch of big-wigged, rich idiots, divvies, who have made this to be woke in 2010, to be we are going to be protecting the planet, but then they're the same ones that are using helicopters. Not, well, yeah, helicopters, I suppose, as well. These are the same ones who are still going to be using private jets. These are going to be the same ones that will still use aeroplanes to get from point A to point B. They're not going to walk from England to France. They're not going to drive from America to Germany. And yet they've enveloped this short film purely around let us try and be this weirdly shock horror of a short film. I still don't understand what it's meant to be about. Like it's cutting costs of carbon dioxide, monoxide. I don't know. I watched it because Gillian Anderson is in it, and it's part of the filmography. But at the same time, I'm looking at it and I'm going, does this really make sense? Because the types of short films that exist like this usually become outdated or hypocritical, and the director has probably came from a good background. He directed Paddington 3. He probably came from a good background, and it's weird really because those films are made to get back at the middle class, but to put it in a jokey manner when it's really the rich bigwigs who are wanting the middle class to stop using their things. That's what it is. So it lost a lot of respect from me because of that. The 1 star was purely for at the start. It was like I wasn't expecting 2 kids to explode. I thought, whoa. So for that alone, it gets 1 star because the entire premise of it is that. And because it's a short film, I can't say it's half a star because I found it quite intriguing, like the explosions. Um, but at the same time, the issue is it's made by the people that are not going to be listening to it. It's made by the people who are literally going to be doing those exact same things. The opportunity arises, whatever, for them to do it, they do it. And you can't tell me, by the way, that's a Gillian Anderson t-shirt on for the video. You can't tell me that it's normal um, for rich people to appreciate the middle class, because it's not. And shown by this video, shown by this whatever, it's clear to me that this film is made with the sole intention to be F the middle class, they don't matter, F the working class, they don't matter, it's the higher class. Because I guess middle class, it's sort of the in between, isn't it? Like working class are seen as generally lower down for whatever reason, even though we're the ones making you rich, so, swivel on it. But at the same time, why did celebrities sign up for this? Like, it got removed. So Wikipedia, I'm paraphrasing, says something along the lines of within 24 hours of release, it was pulled because it was seen as a highly controversial short film, which I'm not going to dispute. If you're wanting to spread a more positive message about being more proactive in the environment, maybe having kids explode and Gillian Anderson and David Ginola and then two office workers as well to boot isn't the best idea to get your message across. Instead, maybe you could literally just, I don't know, maybe do something else. Fair enough if the topic was about the Roman Polanski list and all those celebrities who have retracted their statements about signing the petition exploded. And you could go, wow, that's cool. But I feel like for something like using aeroplanes or jets or whatever, or cars, when cars are always going to be used, buses, trains, any form of transportation is always going to be used. So the first segment is kids in a classroom. The second segment is office workers. The third segment is David Ginola with the Tottenham Hotspur team. Well, four players at that time. Peter Crouch is in it as well, but he survives. And then the fourth one is Gillian Anderson saying, my contribution was narrating this. And then the sound guy is like, okay, and then explodes that. It's crazy. And it's like, are these celebrities who partook in this, maybe apart from, well, this is the thing. Did David Ginola sign on to the short film knowing he's never going to be doing that? So it's like, yeah, just explode as I get a quick paycheck. Because if those celebrities are getting exploded because they're not doing it, maybe that was them saying, we're not doing this, so you don't have to, as a gimmicky type thing. Which is pretty good when you look at it, but at the end of the day, it's just a bit of a. Like, it's on YouTube, it's 4 minutes long, it's daft, it's silly, it's stupid. And I don't really know what else to say about it, to be honest with you, because I just find the whole thing embarrassing. It's the rich poking fun at the expense of us who get driven to places and whatnot, and it's not aged well. Even now, people aren't that too keen or fond or just bothered by it. Obviously, 2010, whoa, something like that's a bit crazy, but at the same time, you've made it, and now you're doing Paddington 3. So, only seen the first one, and even then it was on and off. But that was no pressure, 1 star rating. Really don't care for the film. I know it's a short film, but short films can be good. But I just don't care for that one. 1 star purely for the shock factor at the start. And it just never lived up to any sort of entertainment after. I was watching it with a bit of a confused look on my face. I suppose if it was like a full on feature length film, like Spontaneous with a topic about that or whatever, like a horror, tense thriller film, and the rich are the evils, which they are in real life, then fair enough. But no, it's fine. It's fine in the sense of it's 4 minutes of your time that you're probably gonna wish you had back. Watch one of the explosions, but it overstays its welcome. And that's all I can really say about it. Um, been talking about that for 10 minutes. Now the next one, we'll wait till we get to 10 minutes. Right, bear with us. Do 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 do. This one has two names: Continuum or I'll Follow You There, which doesn't make sense, but neither title actually makes sense. So, the movie is a 3-star rating because it's one of those movies that you have a good time watching, but it's not very good, but you don't have it in your heart to give it anything more than a 3 just out of simple enjoyability. The movie is about this son who, when he was little, his dad went on a plane journey. Turns out his dad wasn't going to a work conference, but instead he had built a time machine to go back in time to meet Albert Einstein and show him the time machine. Which does sound convoluted, and it's weird because the first 15 minutes is dedicated to that, 2-minute segment. And then the rest of the movie, it has him as an older man, the son, and his dad had disappeared that night, and nobody knew what had happened to his dad. And the mother, Gillian Anderson's character, she was depressed. She had failed attempts at a certain thing, and his granddad is a teacher at the university that he's the smartest kid at, but he's always late. Well, he walks in as soon as the bell goes to leave, and it's one of those, isn't it, where he's the smartest kid, but he doesn't have any sense of responsibility for time or education. Always the case. It's funny, isn't it, how it's always, if something goes wrong to a relative or like a parental figure, it's always funny how years later it's their child or who they looked after that ended up becoming Spider Man or the smartest person in the room or important. And I find that a very bad trend because it's just laughable. Because the son is literally the smartest person who's smarter than his granddad who teaches sciencey stuff obviously at college or university rather, sorry. He's smarter than his mum who is also a professor for something I forgot what. And he's probably smarter than his dad now, but Einstein, if the movie allowed itself to show off his smartness. But the first 15 minutes, it's a fine setup. He is waving goodbye to his dad. His dad doesn't answer any calls. There's no proof of him leaving the hotel he was staying at because they're waiting for him on the flight back. There's a little girl that's the next door neighbour that they then end up together, or they are together when the flash forward happens. And the movie is about him not caring about his dad in the sense of it's happened, he's gone, we don't know what's happened to him, and that's that. The mother is still very depressed and crying, she's still very grief stricken over it. I don't know if that's a sexist thing. Um, could you be that emotionally? I guess you could, but I just feel like it's a bit of a stereotype where the child doesn't care, even though at the start it's shown that the dad and the main character have a very solid parent, like father son relationship. They were playing chess, they're having a good time, and yet somehow it's only Gillian Anderson's character who's weeping. In fact, actually, the only character to cry in the movie characters are the women. Gillian Anderson's character and the son's girlfriend. I don't think any males actually cried in that movie. And listen, that's his dad, who he had a very good relationship with. Now, you don't forget that. Yeah, you don't forget that. And yet he's so past it, he doesn't care. The entire movie is solely about not really being what's the word? So like, I know I've talked about her before, but me mother, she passed away in on the 17th of February. Um, and I'm using that as an example because you have to just get on with life. In this movie, his mother ends up offing herself in it as well. And as soon as his mother offs herself, he then wants to try and find his dad. And it's like, okay, you know that both of your parents are missing. Well, one of them's now deceased, the other we don't know. We do know, but I'll get to that. You can't, it's like what Batfleck says in The Flash. And he goes, these scars, they make us who we are. We can't change that. Going back in time, that diminishes who we become. Or something along those lines. And it's a very poetic way for Batfleck to leave the DCEU. But listen, we're not doing the DC one, not yet. No, 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 no. Um, so, as much as I would love to go back in time and spend more time with her, I feel like the person that you become after their death, you can't. It's a bit drastic comparing a real life situation to this, but I'm trying to make the point that we all would love to go back in time and have more memories, stop somebody from dying, but at the same time, it stops you evolving as a person, which I know sounds very edgy, and I don't mean for it to be, but when something happens in life, you can't just retract it. You can't take it back. You can't rewind time. You can't turn back time. You have to put up with it, and it will either make you a better or a worse person. But the entire point of life is obstacles, right? So this geezer, this son, his granddad seems to have cracked the code he found in boxes, I think, in the hotel room or something, and notes. And he's like, your dad, he was traveling back in time to meet Albert Einstein. I forgot what the year was. In the 1930s, I think. Was Albert Einstein even alive then? I don't know. But to me, Albert Einstein was long dead before World War I had even happened, never mind two. I might be entirely wrong, I don't know, but to me, Albert Einstein's never really been, to me, like alive or had passed away 10 years before Hitler came. Anyways, he's going into these notes and he's saying, your father, this was when the mother was still alive, your father could have been trapped in one point in time, unable to get back, and because of that, he's formed a new timeline because his actions that were never meant to happen have happened. The whole timeline thing's a bit confusing. I understand it, but to explain it is confusing. But essentially, if I went back in time to a period where I was never born in, and I interacted with people, I did stuff, that would then become a whole different universe and timeline than what it would have been had everything progressed naturally and I just stayed in my timeline. So they explain that and elaborate on it a bit, saying that the father could have been stuck and he could still be in what 1940s, 1950s. And the son's like, at this point, the mom's alive. This was actually after he was late for the university thing. Like, how do you teach your nephew and not be mad that he's late to class? Because it's so stupid. He walks in and it's like 1 minute before the bell, and he sits down, and then he goes, because his grandfather puts him on the spot, and then he goes, "Oh, you can't do that because this and that or whatever." And it's like, mate, if you, that was when I was like, this geezer, man. You know what it is? I read the description on Letterboxd. I read the description of the movie, and I knew it was going to be a bad one, but it's actually, I quite like it. It's not a good film, but I saw another comment on Letterboxd that said another film that I'm going to be talking about later isn't necessarily a good film, but that isn't always what you need. It's just enjoyable, and I quite like these films because I grew up on the so bad it's good movies, and to me, those are just a 3-star rating automatically if they're enjoyable, but you know that they're bad. The movie, The guy has a girlfriend, and the girlfriend doesn't know anything at first. But it's the same girl that was friends with him when they were little in the first 15 minutes or so. And the girlfriend is a lovely woman, and they have a date that he's 2 minutes late to because of the university lab where him and his grandfather talked about the multiverse, and he's like, don't tell mom. His grandfather wants to bring back his dad. Now, I suppose altering with time to bring somebody back who was already altering with time is an exception. But to do that is also very risky. Because of the sheer fact that if you do that, what universe, what timeline, if they prevented World War II, but at what cost? You know. The grandfather, I think, has some guilt to do with this, purely because he helped, maybe with some working out for the time machine to be built. But you can't just. I mean, listen, it's a sci fi movie that the only reason people have watched it, let's be honest, is Gillian Anderson. I'm not even trying to propagandise her, okay? I promise I'm not. But her character is awful in the movie. And I don't mean her acting, I don't mean the character's portrayal. I just mean that the mother has no reason to exist other than to cry. I saw someone put on Letterboxd the comment that Gillian Anderson plays a weeping wife, and I thought, well, yeah, if the husbands went missing, but I know what they mean now. I think that's all she does in the movie before she. Well, she doesn't do that actually. She takes medication, pills, whatever. But that's all she does in the movie. But would you still be that heartbroken by it? I suppose you would, in the sense that you don't know what's actually happened. But then you're like, okay, time to move on. You don't need to go on another date. You don't need to find somebody else. But don't just cry in the movie. Her character was wasted. Well, she was wasted, let's be honest. And yet, the reason why people are watching this movie, 9 out of 10 people watching this film are watching it for Gillian Anderson. And you waste her character. Her, her character has no relevance to the plot after the first 15 minutes. But after the mother has I wouldn't say an argument, but there's some raised voices between her and her son. Our son then has to cancel his date with his lass, stays to look after his mum, sees her in the bed, closes the door, then finds out that the next day that when he looked at her, checked on her, and just closed the door slightly, she had committed it. Excuse me, I'm gonna. Excuse me. So, after his mother passes away, you know what? I was actually expecting the granddad to just come out and say, time travel? Or expecting the kid, the son, whatever, to have a. He does have a name. The name's in the back of my head. Oh, what's his name? His name's in the back of my head as well, the son. What was it? If it comes to us, it comes to us. But essentially, after the mother passes away, he becomes so focused, so about finding a way to time travel to save his dad, because if his dad never time travels, his mum never offs herself, he gets to have both parents. However, the girlfriend finds out, and she's getting a bit skitsy. She's like, will we still be the same? All that lovey-dovey rubbish. And then the bombshell drops. She's pregnant. Now, I would have actually liked to have maybe an extra 20 minutes or so to flesh out her perspective, because she does nothing in the movie apart from get pregnant, or be pregnant rather. But I would have been really interested to see the mindset of his girlfriend, who knows that he's devising a way to time travel to change this timeline, and to see how it affects her, to see how it manages to make her feel, knowing that everything that she's doing right now she may never remember. The son ends up finding a newspaper article from the 1930s, and there's a stopwatch that his grandfather gave his dad. So I'm assuming no, yeah, they got his. So no, I think his mom's. So his grandfather, I think, gave his dad, even though he is the father of his mother, a stopwatch. And there's a picture of a man in the 1930s, no face, no identity, face down, mugged, shot dead, stopwatch left, and he goes, "That's my dad. How convenient. The stopwatch is the only thing that's left, just to give us the rest of the movie." Now, in the meantime, the girlfriend is still a bit skitsy. They're about to break up, and he's like, "What are you doing? I've only been spending all of my time trying to figure out how to time travel and erase everything that we've ever known, but why are you leaving me? What? Why do you have a luggage bag?" And he's like that, and then she goes, "Why do you think?" And he promises, oh, he promises to scrap it all away. And he does, to be fair to him. He even goes on house hunting journeys with her. Everything's looking up, and you're like, what's going to happen now? Where's the rest of the movie? She has a miscarriage caused by stress. The only way for the plot to progress, to have us be at a standstill, is to have his pregnant girlfriend, which probably was just put into the script for shock, and then they realised, we need to do something about this. I caramba. They had her have a miscarriage, right? Which means that the fetus, the baby, whatever, has died, caused via stress, right? Which is probably because her boyfriend's a nutter. And then he decides to time travel again so he can save his dad, he can stop his mother from offing herself, and he can save his unborn child that he may not actually have if he, quote unquote, cleans up the timeline. The only way for the plot to progress, can I just reiterate, is for the girlfriend to have a miscarriage. That's the only way they were able to actually have the entire plot of the movie continue. The only way. There was no other way that he would have stopped living that life that he's promised to keep hold of. Mate, what? Oh my gosh, this is it's anyways. So he promises to her when she's sleeping after the miscarriage that he's going to give everybody the life they deserved. He's going to go full on Rambo style. He's going to get the paint across his eyes, the bandana on. He's going to be topless. He's none of that. He wears a 1930s suit because he figures out how to time travel with his grandfather. Says, "Grandfather, this is my job. He's my dad. 3 days' time, if I'm not back, you know what to do." And he wears a 1930s suit to blend in, and we cut to the father. And they show like the backstory of the father who went back in time, but he time travels to the like appropriate time and follows his dad. Has a gun on him, just in case his dad gets mugged, maybe, or maybe not if you've seen the movie. And the father knocks on Albert Einstein's door. He's busy. And then they go to a cafe. I think the kid's name is Aaron, I think. And he talks to his dad, and at first he's been a bit, invasive. And then he just says what the crack is. Like, I'm your son, I'm from the future. You get mugged and killed in this timeline in the 1930s. You need to go back home because a lot of things happen because of it. Along those lines, it sounds a lot more dramatic than it really does, but the fact of the matter is his mother uh, went to heaven by her own will, and his unborn son passed away. It's not, it's life changing, but it's not like he's making this out to be as if aliens came down in the 1980s and humanity's never been the same again. Maybe not in 1980s. However, whenever the plot's meant to exist, I really don't care. So they have a chit chat and they go to the underground basement and he goes, Father, let me have a look at this, because they managed to build the exact same one from scratch. Oh, and there's also like this weird subplot with the grandfather and the secretary that has a crush on him, but it never really gets resolved. But his wife, he's a widowed grandfather, widowed husband, not grandfather, that's weird. But is it widowed husband? So he's moving on in life, which is fair dues. But then you're looking at it and you're going, okay, got a snot in my nose. Hang on. He's went to see his dad, and his dad is like, whoa, you're my son. And the son tells him, read everything in detail, but he doesn't. He doesn't. Anyways, the father's still a bit adamant on finding Albert Einstein to show him, and the son was like, what do you care most about? And he went, family. Always family. And he went, go home. Don't get mugged. And he went, I won't get mugged now because you've told me and showed me that I was going to get mugged. I'm going to be staying in here, not interacting with anybody else. I'm just going to stay in the basement and that's it. And he goes, no, you have to go home because otherwise Mom dies and everything with my life. He makes it as if he's got no life. That's what he's making it out to be. And I suppose maybe his mother became a bit neglectful in the movie. Who knows? Like in the absence of him, I don't know. But his son ends up blowing his brains out with the gun that he took from his timeline, just so that the father had more of a push to go back and erase anything from ever happening. And that's how the movie ends. He just goes back home and he looks at his son and he's like, top dog. And that's it. That's it. That's the movie. 3 stars. It's one of those where it's not very good, but you have a good time watching it. I like those movies. I wouldn't want them as always my movie. But I did like it. I know I'm making it out as if it's worse than it was, just like he was making out his life was worse than it was. But no, I like it. I'm sorry, I do. I love it. I don't love it, but yeah, why not? 33 minutes, and this is one. Um, Let us just get to 34. Do 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 do. The third one is called The Widowmaker, a 1.5 star rating by me, and it is a documentary film about heart attacks. Yes, a lovely thing to watch on a Saturday afternoon. This is a documentary, which means I don't know what I'm talking about. I don't know how to talk about a documentary. But it's more or less about how there's no right or wrong way to live because anybody can get a heart attack. So it's a very lovely documentary to watch. Again, must I reiterate, on a Saturday afternoon when the sun's out. They interview doctors and survivors, people who have had a loss in their life due to a heart attack. But the weird thing is, right? The weird thing is, within the documentary, there's a subplot. Now, this is a real documentary. I just want to stress that. This is a real documentary. Real professionals have been recorded, interviewed. All of it is legit. It's not acted out. But there's beef between two doctors within the documentary. Or a doctor and a completely different. They call themselves the, oh, what's in the Calcium Club or something? And they were like pay to see if you've got any calcium in your heart. Apparently, the more calcium you have, the more likely you are for a heart attack, or the more calcium you get that fills up your heart, you can have a heart attack. Something like that. And within the documentary, there was two medical professionals that were like beefing with each other from their own areas to like probably the same camera crew about what's ethical, what's right, and all of that. I just found that a bit, listen, I feel like I gotta back up my ratings. I'm just gonna sneeze again, I think. So, I'm gonna do a tier list video as well after my next Gillian Anderson video, just a quick one. So, I might do the tier list video. Anyways, it's a 1.5 because like it exists. I wouldn't say it's a worthwhile documentary. I feel like it doesn't really, just like why planes go down, it doesn't really do much for us in the sense of that it doesn't really make me feel comfortable. Per se, I enjoy it not because of the topic, but just the beef is there. It's sort of interesting, but it kind of just, you wouldn't say it. Oh, it's not too bad. You would be like, it's fine. Like, I wouldn't even say it borders on. Um, 2 stars. I wouldn't say ignore it. I wouldn't say like it's not really worth watching because it is. It's got some educational stuff in it. And it's a bit interesting seeing how different people are reacting to the heart attacks and stuff. And there's like some cool, like if you live in America, there might be some more medical history for you to search up, like the Calcium Club, £300 or whatever per UV scan. But that's all the film really is. And I apologise that there's not. I don't know how to talk about documentaries. I'm getting better with films as shown by No Pressure and Continuum slash I'll follow you there, whatever. I'll always be there, whatever. I don't care what it's called. But The Widowmaker, it's just a documentary about heart attacks. Like, the only worthwhile thing would be the beefing, and I suppose the morbid reality that it doesn't really matter. You see, you footballers have heart attacks. It doesn't matter what you are in life, you can have a heart attack. So, yeah, um, yeah, yeah, um, wow, that was a very underwhelming segment, wasn't it? We're on a high as well. So, The Widowmaker, I'm just trying to like buy time for 45 seconds. How do you talk about a documentary? Because a documentary is literally describing what you're seeing. How do I describe? It's just weird. There's some enjoyable bits in it, but for the most part, it's pretty bland. Which I guess, yeah, it's about heart attacks. But I was expecting like a proper educational style video. Instead, it was just intermitted with stories of real life with like the medics beefing with each other. Because that's what medics do, they always beef with each other because they want to be the want to be the better one, but underwhelming segment, I can only apologise. Now, the next one is another documentary. I don't even know how much I can talk about this. It's called The Artist's Expressionism. I think that's what it's called. It's got a very long name. I gave it a 5-star rating. Yes, a 5-star rating, because I didn't have any issues with the documentary. I found it on the film studio's website, a fiver to stream. And it's about French painting and the revolution of the French artistry from, is it like 1870 to 1920 or something? Keeping in mind, I don't care about art in the sense of a collector or an appreciator. It isn't my gimmick, but I loved this documentary. I had no issues with the documentary. I found it fascinating. It was all about these artists who became prominent in the field, and it all started with the French. How women were seen as more of a, within the artist world, actor, because they were being essentially photographed with the paint, doing stuff, and how art was a form of speaking out, where you would have people painting pictures of women outside, but on a balcony, almost as if to say, you know, she's sort of in between both because she's a woman and she wants to be on the outside, but she has to be on the inside because she's a woman. And you learned a lot in that. That was a lot more of a good documentary than The Widowmaker, which was just medics beefing with each other. Um, the the artist's expression, or whatever it's called. It's a movie that also has a lot of people in it that know what they're talking about, which is good. Art is something that I'm never really going to fully appreciate. Me auntie, bless her, she loves art. And I can appreciate, like, oh, that's a cool art piece, but I'm not wanting to do a proper revolutionary, what's the word? Like, deep dive into it, you know? But at the same time, I didn't realize how much art, even in the late 1800s, was sort of a way to speak out against certain political decisions made. Because there used to be this artist club that would live in a massive, well, not a massive, in a big house. Bachelors and bachelorettes would be in certain rooms, couples in another, but they would all just talk about art and stuff regarding that, allegedly. Not that we're never gonna know. So, but I didn't expect women, respectfully, in the 1870s to be allowed any form of rights. And there was an artist, I forgot her name, but she was sort of like the one first to try and push for equal rights, because the suffragettes were there. I didn't realize the suffragettes were before 1940, like World War Two. And it was a bit of a feminist film as well, in the sense of women in the 1800s were still a long way behind, as we know, but they were using art for those that did as a way to speak out and go, I can do things. It's a documentary that I didn't think I would actually like. I didn't really want to watch it because I was like, I don't like art. Well, I loved the documentary. I really, really, I gave it a 5 star because I can't think of one thing about it that I just didn't like. I was just wondering when it was going to end, because with documentaries, I always have this feeling you don't know. I would prefer just like a linear documentary. I feel like the Widowmaker sort of had that with the years chronologically, but that was all I was wondering. And even then, I'd probably watch a second movie. Maybe, maybe. As much as I love that one, I feel like that has to be something in a small dose because I don't really care for the medium. As a, I would never do an art course to study it. I don't care really for the history. It's not my thing. If you do that, that's your thing. Art like that should be brought back, but it's never going to be. But I just don't care as a person that has free time to use my free time to look into that, which I know sounds a bit bad considering I've just given that documentary a 5-star rating, but that's how I feel. And the reason for that is purely because I just don't really care. The documentary is good, it's very intriguing, it's interesting, it tells you what you want to know. Even if you didn't want to know it before, I'm glad that I did now because I didn't realise, women were still fighting for everything in the late 1800s. That artists were using their artwork as a way to say, this is what we would prefer as a society. And I felt like they wanted to make a sequel. That's what it felt like because at the end they were like leading towards me shadow chin. At the end, it felt like they were trying to lead towards a sequel in development with the way that they were going about the next revolution. Maybe they wanted to and just couldn't get the funding. I'm surprised the film's still available. You can buy a physical DVD for 16 quid, but I wouldn't even pay that for a Blu-ray, never mind a DVD. But I'm glad that I found it on the website. For once, that stupid Google AI feature actually worked. I don't like that AI feature. And that's what artists becoming nowadays. This is how I could talk about it more. Artists nowadays are using, what's his name? Is his name Greg Land? He's a Marvel artist who is notorious for using certain types of women as a tracing idea for a character. So the Invisible Woman could be, a big boobed woman traced over. He's notorious for tracing women with who he would like to be in the bedroom with. Let's just put it like that. DC had an issue with the Joker having 3 nipples or something. There's like a Batman comic that came out a few years ago, and people are saying because some of the stuff's a bit weird that it was AI generated. That's the issue now. Art doesn't exist. I work in a warehouse, and AI art is on a lot of things, and it's like there's not even pictures of people, it's just AI. That should be against the law, but it's never going to be because it's cost effective. That is until the politicians are put out of their job because of AI, and then they'll be saying, oh, we should have spoken up sooner, defended yous. So I suppose in this generation, watching a documentary like that to see how much more talent a human has, right, that a human can create. Because AI, that takes a human creates. And to see people in the 1800s, even before paint became sold in little tubes, before any of that happened, and seeing how humans still had an amazing mind to create art. You know what? I think I like art a lot more now. It's anti AI. Because you're seeing these humans in the 1800s who there's no TV, probably no radio, everything was by memory. I don't think cameras existed then. And then you just look at it and you go, that's what art was. My auntie still does art, she's very, very good at it. And now you've got today's generation on Chat GPT. So I suppose watching it in 2026 has really also made me appreciate how good humans are. Not that I didn't know that already. I mean, come on. I'm not green, am I? Or whatever colour aliens are, who knows? Think conspiracy channel, who knows? But humans are capable of so much more than computers. Who gets the information first? The humans. Google, Firefox, Bing, Edge, ChatGPT, they all recycle what the humans have done. So if you like art, if you want to be anti-AI, which is the right way to be, watch it. It's got such a long name. I think I've called it. I don't even know. I think I've just typed up. I wrote up artists on here. Yeah, the artists. No, it's artists expressionism or something. I'll link it anyways below, like I usually do. But that's the movie. It's about feminism. Well, the documentary as well. It's about feminism and a painter who claimed to not teach, but he had a few students, so he did teach. And yeah, I don't know what else to say regarding that. Nobody likes AI. Nobody. We'll let that get to 52, and then we'll talk about the next movie. I need to put a rating for that. I don't know what it is. Do I do a tier list? Do I not? I'll get to. I'm just biding time till it gets to 52 minutes. Do, do, do. Oh. Hmm. We're gonna pop to the top, slip and slide and feel that rhythm. That's gonna be one day as well. High School Musical says we do. Anyways, the next movie we're still on. Yes, the next movie is called UFO. A 3-star rating again because just like Continuum slash I'll Follow You there, it is a very bad film, but it's very enjoyable. No aliens are harmed in this movie. No aliens were harmed during filming. Aliens are not shown in this film. A UFO is. Now the main character is autistic, and when I say autistic, I'm talking like, let's say this is the autism scale. I'm probably here. I can hide it easily. He's here. And he's not diagnosed as autistic, right? But you watch the movie knowing the signs, and you'll be like, if he was my friend, if he was my nephew, my son, I'll be getting him tested straight away. I'll be getting the nearest hospital and saying, yeah, I need an autism test. The movie doesn't really have a plot until it decides that it forgot the backstory. It starts off with an airport and a UFO is seen. People are shocked and they say it, they record it, whatever. They get debriefed by the FBI in the film, and that's normal. But our main character is so smitten by a UFO that he drops everything to try and figure out, was it really a UFO, because the FBI are trying to hide it. And there's no rhyme or reason at that point as to why he cares so much until it's then used later on as a emotional crux. Ella Purnell is in it pre Fallout fame, but the main character, what's his name? Again, on the tip of my tongue. He is the most autistic character that I've probably watched in a film for a long time. His special interest, what makes him forget about everybody else, everything else, is a UFO. And it isn't told to us until maybe the 40-minute mark why. And the backstory is when he was a child, his mother worked at a diner, so he would be there because she was a single mother, and he claimed he saw aliens, a UFO. Nobody believed him. And he doesn't like his mom because of it. We don't know what happened to his mom. We know that the day after in the backstory, it's shown that her parents or brother and sister take him away or something. And he hates his mum for not believing him, which I suppose fair enough. He knows what he saw and he did see it. But Ella Purnell's character makes a very good point. You were just a child. How were you expecting them to behave? And all he wanted her to do, his mum, was to believe him, which is fair enough. Right? You're supposed to believe your kid, even if it's something stupid like that. Not stupid because aliens do exist, but you know, I'll probably get taken in by Keir Starmer if I start seeing what I know about the aliens. No, no. Aliens exist. You can't hide from it. They do. If we can have different species of animals, insects, arachnids, bugs, we can have aliens. Simple as. If we can have different skin colours, if we can have different types of animals from the animal kingdom, if we can have bacteria that is life, but it's none of either humans or animals or whatever, we can have aliens. We are a social experiment. Hello, aliens. We are a social experiment by the aliens. I'm not a massive conspiracy theorist regarding them, but I do believe in them. Whether or not they will make themselves known is for another story, but I do believe they are who made us. But who made the aliens? This movie doesn't tackle that. In fact, this movie does not actually care about aliens. It cares about a UFO. We know who orbits the UFO, but it does not care who is in it. All it cares about is the UFO itself, because that's the entire point of the movie. And this kid lives with his roommate who does drugs, and he tries to figure out, the autistic one, how to verify that it was a UFO, because he starts harassing people. He finds people's phone numbers that are affiliated with the FBI, or rather a part of the uh, airport security. But he's so adamant that he knows it's a UFO, fine, fair enough, and he wants to see it. He goes on the deep web, which is like the precursor to the dark web, and people have the footage that was removed from online of the UFO, sound bites, all of this, and he tries to map out some sort of sign that the aliens are trying to communicate with were, which I just don't think they were. I think if you watch the movie, you realise the aliens are screaming. The UFO is mimicking what the aliens are doing, and that's them screaming, realising that Earth isn't as nice as they probably thought it was going to be. Because, let's face it, where the movie takes place for the most part does not look that very appealing. If I was an alien, I'd want to be back on the moon, play some cards, Bogo's Blended, and just live it. Fair enough. But the movie itself is one that doesn't have a plot, apart from a UFO being tracked by an autistic kid, which sounds silly anyways, and it's surprisingly able to hold up a solid 90 minutes of a film. Well, 80, it's like actually 75 minutes if you want to say 10 minutes for credits. But the fact that it manages to hold up a plot without going back a lot, it's commendable. Gillian Anderson plays his science maths teacher in university. She's got nothing to do with the movie until like the last 20 minutes, and it's revealed that she's an alien from Mars. I'm joking. She somehow cracks the code. So this is the thing, right? This is the thing, right? So the entire movie revolves around this autistic kid trying to figure out the UFO and trying to figure out, is it a sign? Is it a date? Is it coordinates? What is it? And the entire movie is spent with him trying to figure out everything. Only for the last 5 minutes of the actual film rolling for Gillian Anderson's character to realise what it is. Your main character, right? And another one, it's the mother isn't in the film, he's the smartest character. Gillian Anderson's character, who barely has anything of note within the actual movie to do, apart from when somehow the autistic kid gets the phone number of his college professor, calls her husband, asks if the professor's on the line, says that he's outside, sorry it's late, and he needs to crack this code for the UFO, and then she's like, oh, I'm not, I'm too old, and he lists off a bunch of mathematicians that are, that got the stuff later on in life. I'm going to sneeze again. Bless me. And then they stay up a bit. She's the one that cracks the code the next day in the college class, the university lecture, whatever. Mate, your entire movie is spent about this kid, right? Your entire movie is this kid that really, 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 really wants to solve this UFO mystery. Has the FBI break in and take his stuff or whatever. He gets his mate thrown in prison for the night because they find his weed and think that it's his. He ditches the lass that has a crush on him when he promises to take her to the free lecture because he's so focused on the UFO and can only focus on that. Another indication that he's autistic because she waits for him. She can't make it because he was going to drive her there, but he forgot. And he's like, did you not understand what I said? And she's like, no, leave. He's late to a math lecture when they're doing a test, and he's banging on the doors like he's screaming. He's screaming. It's like he's watching the aliens abduct his professor, his future girlfriend. Those are the only two characters that do anything in the movie that are in his lecture class. All of the others are background extras. But he's like screaming and he's pounding on the door because he's late. That is the autism right there. That is the autism. But anyways, he's not even the one that cracks the code. And the entire movie is spent about him cracking the code. Mate, he got ball busted hard. Mate, bang. Ouch. The subplot is the FBI, they don't have anybody smart enough. Now, I thought that the movie was actually going to be the FBI and follow him, abduct him, and make him work for them. But they don't actually team up until the end of the film. Now, I don't know if, again, just like the Artist's Expressionism one, that is a documentary film, they wanted to make a follow up. Because at the end of the film, again, it's the smart character syndrome, SMS. The FBI geezer, he's like, this technology could take 500 years, could take 50 years, could be shorter with your help. And it's like, in Age of Ultron, where all of the new Avengers are like in the compound, and then Captain America's gonna say, Avengers, assemble, and it just. The theme tune plays. That is essentially what the end was meant to be like for UFO. But it wasn't. It just ended like that. I think they were hoping, oh, we'll do a sequel, we'll get the aliens involved. That could have actually been a decent sequel. I'm not saying the movie's any good. It's a 3-star because it's so bad it's good. But at the end of the day, I think that the movie could have been more of a world build up. The first one be something silly, and then the second one, Ella Purnell gets abducted for sexist plots, and then it's up to him and the smackhead roommate to save her, or something like that. You know what I mean? Or have a plot twist. Have a plot twist where he wakes up at the end of the movie and he realizes that he had a bag of weed that was laced in his food by his roommate or something, and it was all a dream. Either way, the movie's pretty pointless in existing. I feel like there's a lot more to say about this. Um, what else? He harasses people, which I've went through. He's majorly autistic, which I don't think I've mentioned yet. Ella Purnell's character, they were trying to do this lovey subplot and then they just dropped it like an autistic person probably would if the new special interest came in the way. I can say that because I'm legally autistic. I'm just not on a very high severity label, but that's smart filmmaking if they made him ditch her because he's more focused on the UFO. But the entire movie is trying to find all of these different ways to map out the UFO's coordinates, and he figures out a date that the UFO is going to be there at, and he just can't figure out one more thing. But then, when Gillian Anderson's character is doing a unrelated lecture, she cracks the code. He sees the UFO at the end of the movie before he has a chat with the FBI geezer because he's in the van because he took a picture. The FBI were there and they get the guns out and he gets arrested. Yeah. Um, it doesn't really do anything as a sci-fi movie or as a movie in general because I feel like the issue is, yeah, we're all looking at this movie and saying it's bad, which it is, but I don't think it's a movie that didn't try in some regards. Maybe they were trying to treat, but forgot to put the right timer on. And what I mean by that is, I feel like you do see a lot of alien movies where they want to show the aliens, but this one is trying to be a bit more ambiguous. And by doing that, it was sort of like, okay, we are ambiguous. We're not going to show the alien, we're going to show the UFO. Make a movie about that, which I don't think I really know much movies where they've not shown the alien. So it tried to do something different, and the entire plot works, but it's not very good. I just feel like there wasn't a lot of care put into the characters. Apart from him being autistic and Gillian Anderson just being there, like Ella Purnell and a smackhead roommate, there's no point for any character to exist because there's no personality. There's no there's no reason for any of them to be friends. You wonder how they are friends. But he's so focused on the UFO because he gets like a notification from the Ohio newspaper article or whatever. And then it's like, mate, why is he so pressed? Like, we don't even find out till maybe halfway into the movie. The backstory. Would it not be a better idea to maybe show something before then, just to be, okay, he's here, and this is why he's adamant on this, but I don't know. I really don't know. The FBI agent, he's in it, but he doesn't really do much. He's more or less there just to be, we don't know what we're doing. And obviously, the autistic kid is in the movie, and none of these scientist people who've been discovering aliens or whatever, like trying to figure out their existence for decades as a job, none of them are smarter than him. Who would have thought? Who would have thought? And I feel sorry for you, Pet, because you had nothing to do in the movie. Hey. Well, I'll tell a lie. You actually solved the entire enigma, which is weird because it's not even your movie. And just like I'll follow you there, you are on the cover purely because you are Gillian Anderson. If you were not, and you were Gillian Panderson, nobody would give a toss. But I think that's where we end the video. 5 films, 2 documentaries, 1 short film. So it's felt really like an extended 2 film review. I'm awful at documentaries, I know. The next video will be out on Friday. 1 short film called Robin, and it's a solo video purely because the other 2020s the Gillian Anderson Fulhams, are all franchise-based, which will eventually have their own videos. So thank you very much for watching. I love you all. Much love and mwah.